Jaya Jaya Ma Sharada Sunita Vishwavandita Parama Punita Jaya Shama Sundari Kishori Ramachandra Duhita Atibori Jaya Jaya Bhuvana Vimohini Mata Jaya Suchi Ruchi Mukha Mangala Data Jaya Karuna Varuna Kalyani Jaya Santati Vatsala Amani Tumahi Uma Janaki Radha Jaga Yaga Tapa Priti Agada Tumahi Jnana Karma Ki Basha Achala Bhakti Ki Tuma Paribasha Pavana Tamamana Jivana Ganga Nirmala Chaviravi Rashmi Vabanga Rama Krishna Gata Prana Tumhare Rome Rome Tanama Uchare Harne Ko Bhuba Tumoye Sansarame Om Agnir Murta Chakshusi Chandrasuryo Vishaha Shrotrivag Vivitasha Vedaha Vayu Prana Hridaya Vishvamasha Padbayam Prativihi Sarvabhutantaratma Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Verily, that one Supreme Being is the indwelling consciousness in all things. Fire is its head, the sun and moon its two eyes. The revelation of Scripture is its cosmic mind. The universe is its heart, its arms and legs, the four directions. The wind is its breath, music is its voice, and from its feet the earth has originated. Om peace, peace, peace. Om apyayantu mamangani vak pranishchakshuhu shrotramatra balamindriyani chasarvani sarvam brahma upanishadam mahabrahma nirakuryam mama brahma nirakaroda nirakara namastva nirakaranam meyastu tadatmani nirati ya upanishatsu namaste maishantu te maishantu. Om shanti shanti shanti. May our bodies experience great health. May our life force, our prana, flow unimpeded. May our minds expand in their capacity to know Brahman, the reality. For the Upanishads state that all existence is Brahman. Therefore, may we never deny Brahman, and may Brahman never deny us. May there be no rejection ever of Brahman by us. We, who are dedicated to the realization of the Atman, the soul within. May all divine qualities cited in the Upanishads also reside within us. Om peace, peace, peace. Om Sadhana. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karvavahai Tejasvi Navaditamastu Ma Vidvishovahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May Brahman, the reality, protect us. May Brahman sustain us. May Brahman illumine our thinking process. May we not find fault with each other, with the world, or with the teachings. And may what we study be a source of inspiration to us eternally. Om peace, peace, peace. May peace be unto us, may peace be unto all. Om Hari Om. And this peace, 3 times over, peace, 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 shanti, 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 is what we get once we delve deeply into the Dharmic teachings and begin to comprehend them and apply them to our lives. You were just saying before the live streaming audience joined us, welcome all, here at the SRV ashram in Waimea on the big island of Hawaii, out in the middle of the ocean, thousands of miles away from any other landmass, surrounded by the Ganga Pacifica. We call her the Holy Pacific Ocean, which is our sacred waters. And we were just saying before the live streaming audience joined us that spiritual life is a matter of being introduced to these teachings, and then, as our chart from the past classes, to increase our stamina in the teachings, and then to intensify and build some capacity for holding the teachings. And that kind of holding of the teachings will then be called retaining the teachings. You have to be able to retain the gist or the essence of what you hear. It's really much like Shravana, Shruti and Shravana and Nididhyasana, or Manana, Shravana, Nididhyasana. Manana means with the mind, you expose your mind to these teachings, because the mind, manas, is dual by nature, so it has to try and find the single eye. Then Shravana, is also used there. You hear it. Shravanendriya is the sense of hearing, so you must hear it with your ears. It's the most subtle of all of our senses, according to our way of thinking of it in Vedanta. A lot of people think the eyes are most important or something. A lot of people act like the sense of touch is most important. They're attached more to those. But you have to follow the scheme of the 5 elements with the 5 senses, right? If earth is the grossest, then it has to go with smell. And if the next subtlest of all the elements is water, it has to go with taste. And then if fire is the next element on the list, inwardly speaking, or gross to subtle, then it has to go with sight. So sight is only 3rd in the level of these senses as far as their subtlety. And then you get to touch. It's very important also. That goes with air. And finally you come to ether, which is hearing, the vibrations that cross the ethers and so forth, at least on the fundamental level, base level, gross level. Gross not meaning horrible, but meaning apparent, most apparent of all. So those follow the scheme of the 5 elements. You'll find that hearing is very, very important, most important to the aspirant. In fact, hearing the sound of Om will be something that one will experience eventually. And sometimes people, they call it beginner's luck, hear it right at the beginning of their spiritual life. Just like some people see the light right at the beginning. That's called beginner's luck. Don't make too much out of it. Even the Buddhists and the Vedanta teachers all say, go forward on past those first signs, because once you awaken spiritual life, then the gunas will also become very much in play in that spiritual life. They were very much in play in your earthly life, weren't they? As sleepiness and restlessness and some balance you got. Now they're going to become into operation also in your spiritual life, and you'll be aware of stodginess. And it's one of the 9 impediments in yoga, according to Patanjali, this kind of complacency or heedlessness, they sometimes liken it to. And then you'll become aware of the mind's racing, frenetic energy, rajas. Then you'll become aware that there's also sattva, or balance, to be attained in spiritual life, which is a higher happiness. It's kind of like mated up with contentment, but it's not joy or bliss yet. Back to the point there, then, this inner subtleties of things are to be taken account of in their order and meditated on in their order, and then we'll find out how important hearing is and seeing is. That is, we were just saying, hearing the sound of Om and seeing the light within, light of consciousness. Seeing is inward in that case. You don't see the light of consciousness with your eyes. You see the light of the sun and light of fire and lightning and outward glares. But this subtle inner light you have to meditate on to feel it introduce itself to you. See? So that's going to take some time. And the beginner's luck problem of that is that it may happen to you right away when you first meditate in this lifetime. But then you start meditating and you're beginning to pull karmas and samskaras from previous lifetimes, and those come with a price. That's why you've been born here, is because you're still working these out. Some of them have to work them out on a very gross level with evils and sufferings and so forth that are almost unbelievable in many cases. War-torn areas and people born in very horrific conditions physically and mentally and so forth. Other people are working them out just on the basic level of desire. There's some scars are rather desire-based, and some people then higher desires. They're wanting to, like those people that came last night to our center and wanted to experience a puja, because they wanted to have some worship. That's 4th of July, right? So they're looking for inner fireworks, and they're done with the outer fireworks. So that shows they're working out their subtler desires. They want to know what worship is like. They want to know what dedicated people are like in this world of distraction and worldliness and ignorant actions and so forth. So that's indicative of an inner movement that's going on. Finally, samskaras themselves begin to disappear, or you find people that have samskaras of meditation. See, all of a sudden they sit and they don't have just beginner's luck, but their luck extends right away back into their luck, as it were, extends right away back into their samskaras of meditation. The father of yoga, Patanjali, mentions those, that people can draw from their earlier meditations, and that's where you get past masters. It's a nice phrase, past master. And these luminaries that come don't seem to have to do any practice, and seems unfair. Why do we have to practice? They don't, kind of thing. And you don't see them having to go through the early stages of yoga, like hatha and pranayama and practices like that. Their prana is already under control. Their bodies have been fashioned by a mind that's illumined, so their bodies are fine for as long as they're going to want them before they abandon them consciously. And they're, as we just chanted, their life force is flowing unimpeded. They're able to do their works without undue attachments and without getting off balance, and staying equal-minded no matter what comes, no matter what may come. See, good, bad, pleasure, pain, life, death. So that's a higher ideal. You see people who have realized a higher ideal. So a lot of that has to do with this hearing and then considering, building up a capacity, and then hearing the truths on a deeper level, and then retaining what you hear. Sri Ramakrishna used a nice story of feeding pigeons from the park bench. You see, and you're feeding, maybe brought some frozen peas or some grains or whatever, and you're gathering a whole herd of followers around you, you see. And you think, oh boy, I'm going to feed them, and this will be good for me, and it'll be good for them, and aren't I great? So you feed them. And then before you leave, you're feeling quite good about yourself, and you pick up one of the pigeons in your hand and you examine it, see, and you see that all the grains and peas that you fed them are stuck in its craw, you see. They're there, you see, and they haven't been digested. Well, I mean, I hope you can see the ramifications of that story being told by a great master, past master like Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, is that people take the teachings like grains and peas from the guru who's feeding them, but they don't digest them. The guru probably thinks, oh, that was great. They heard all that. They understand it completely, you see. And now they can go into their lives and just wait to see what happens. They can hardly wait to see the light shining off them. They can hardly wait to hear about all their spiritual realizations, see. But no, I've got more problems coming up. You see, I can't manage this. I didn't understand that, and so forth. So yes, fine. Keep on the path. Keep the perseverance going, as Holy Mother would say. But they haven't digested it. It's still stuck in the craw. You see. So that's the idea here about learning how to retain the teachings. And if you want to put it on a level of prana, then you open up a channel in you, and you keep it open. That's probably one of the best examples. If you're talking, shifting more out of the Jnana Yoga sphere into the Kundalini Yoga sphere, in Kundalini you want to get this prana flowing through all the nerves, and you come to know from your teachers that these nerves flow inwardly as well as out. Out means into the body, carrying blood and so forth, and nutrients to the organs. That's the work of the several of the 5 outer pranas, you see. But those 5 pranas have subtle constituents, subtle correlatives to them, and those move inward. Your breath is one of the reasons why you use the breathing, as we looked at 2 weeks ago, purify the prana, control the prana, and raise the prana, is that you want that prana to flow and open up new nadis. Here, it's not like you're creating a new nerve. It's more like blazing a path that was overgrown. You went through with a machete. You know this in Hawaii, all the rain and sun here, you see, in this little hot house here, out in the middle of the ocean, surrounded by water, rained on by that 3rd element, or that 2nd element, that's connected to sense of taste, thirst, and so forth. And we know that's true here, so you could blaze a trail 1 month or come back a few months later, and you might be able to see where the trail once was, but you have to reblaze it, take the machete and go through again if you want to keep that trail open. Much like that, people have blazed trails to samadhi, have blazed trails to meditation, have blazed trails to concentration, have blazed trails to control of the sense objects by the mind, have blazed trails to other spiritual efficiencies. See, they've become accomplished in other lifetimes. But perhaps being born into Kali Yuga in the modern times with all the problems of the day and age, see, that we won't go into here, but you're all well aware of. Maybe some of those trails have overgrown, you see. So this is my point. If you want to retain the teachings, be able to have the facility of remembering them, smriti rupena samstita, she exists as memory in the hearts and minds of all beings. We even sing that to the mother, right? Ya Devi Sarvabhuteshu Chaitaneti Abhidiyate Namastasyai 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 Namo Namaha. Ya Devi Sarvabhuteshu Smriti Rupena Yam Samstita Namastasyai 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 Namo Namaha. Ya Devi Namo Namaha. Ya Devi Namo Ya Devi Namo Namaha, Ya Devi Namo Namaha. And that stotram goes on and on and on. You see, exciting all her qualities. Smriti was the one in that verse that came up in memory, in my memory. Smriti means memory. So if you want to have access to divine memory, say your past lifetimes, those lifetimes where you learned the Dharma, those lifetimes where you sat in the presence of holy beings, of past masters maybe, like the direct disciples of these avatars did, you want to recall that, then it's going to be, as far as we're concerned, although a little after the fact, a matter of reblazing some trails. So those trails are nerves. You might as well think of them as nerves going inward. They're channels, and there's a word for them in Sanskrit. They're called nadis. The yogis know about them, most other beings don't. And that's why India, from time out of mind, has known that death is an illusion. And they know where their ancestors go, so they worshipped them. See, they know how the dynamics of the soul moving from birth to life to death, work, how that operates. It's not an ultimate truth, but it's a relative truth, and it's a relative truth that most beings and most cultures of this day and time have no inkling about whatsoever. They're not interested in it. They're not worshiping their ancestors anymore. They're not worshiping the deities anymore, the gods and goddesses. Because if you talk about earth, water, fire, air, and ether, as far as we're concerned, those are goddesses and gods. You see, those are deities to worship. This is just their outer manifestation. But if you trace where they came from, you'll find that these deities are back in the great mind. And they're sensitive. If you don't worship them, you might have problems with earth. You might have problems with floods. You might have problems with conflagrations, fires. You might have problems with polluted air. You see? So you keep it all very sacrosanct, you see, very sacred, and give everything its due. You deify the entire world as if it were Brahman, at least until you come upon a state of mind in which you can see it all as Brahman. You'll have to pass through some emptiness first, right? Some emptiness. So here's a story for you. There are two friends, see? And one friend, they met after a long time. So one friend was carrying a beautiful ornate jar. So a friend said to his other friend, "What a beautiful container there in your hands. Can I have it?" Mm-hmm. And his friend said, "No, you can't have it right now. Sorry." And so the friend said, well, obviously disappointed, he said, "Well, can I inspect it? Can I hold it?" He said, "Well, certainly you can. Here." So he gave the friend this jar. And the man began to inspect it, all the beautiful artwork on it and so forth. And as he was inspecting it all, then he opened up the lid off the jar and looked in. And he looked at his friend. He saw the jar didn't have anything in it. So he looked at his friend and said, "Oh, I see, this is empty." And his friend said, "Now you can have it." He wouldn't give it to them before he knew it was empty. But when he found out it was empty, then he would give it to them. That's realization of emptiness. See, when you realize the world is completely empty of substance, then you're ready for the world to be real. You're ready for the jar to be given to you. But not until. They won't hand it over to you until you realize that everything here is empty of substance. Shunyata, it's called in Buddhism. Neti neti in Vedanta. But once you realize that it's completely empty, you can have it then. See? Which is instanced by these great seers and sages and so forth who are dancing in ecstasy. Even though they've realized the world is not real, is not true, is not lasting, is ever changing, is lacking in substance. You could say, if you want to be kind to the teaching, it's lacking in substance, but it's not lacking in essence. There's no substance in these things. Even quantum physics has told you about objects, what they consist of. Shifting sand, as Christ would put it, or atomic particles and subatomic particles changing at a billionth of a second. That's hardly a very long time for you to get a grasp on them. That's why you can't hold them, why you can't know an object. You can't have an object, because it's not real, number one, and number two, it's a projection of your own mind. And in fact, it's a projection of hundreds and thousands of other minds along with yours. Mm-hmm. These are things you have to realize, which is why you have to hear the truth and retain it. See? So that whenever you go into an experience of life, good, bad, or mixed, you can immediately default to that wisdom. See? Then you can have the world. Because then you can quit being burned by it, you see. And you can accept it as it is, in all its imperfections, perfect in its imperfections. You know, the jar that was given to the friend by the other friend was ornate and beautiful. That's the world. On the outside, ornate and beautiful. On the inside, it's birth, growth, disease, old age, decay, and death, because that's what nature does. Nature is majoring in the 6 transformations all the time. It's called Maya in Vedanta. So, all of this then to say, when we get to a level of psychic prana, which is where we arrived last week and started to talk about some of these concomitants that come to you or that get revealed, by opening up these inward nadis of the mind, knowledge nadis, jnana nadis, wisdom, then you begin to draw close to Shakti power. And that gives you a great advantage in your spiritual life over people who are unaware of Mother Wisdom. Divine Mother herself is the great ideal to you at that point. And you become dedicated to her and you give your life away. You see, you surrender yourself. See? Swamiji even sings about that in his songs. He would say, Advaya tattva samahita chetam projvala bhakti patavrita vritam Advaya tattva samahita chetam projvala bhakti patavrita vritam Karma kalevaram adbhuta chestam Karma kalevaram adbhuta chestam Yami gurum sharanam bhava vaidyam Yami gurum sharanam bhava vaidyam Naradeva Deva Jaya Jaya Naradeva That's where you sing. So what does it mean in terms of where we've arrived on this chart? Self-surrender. Somewhere in between the psychic prana being under our control and the realization of Divine Mother power. What does it mean? I surrender my entire life, my mind and my soul, to the Divine Lord who appeared in human form and whose superhuman actions are inconceivable to mortals, whose life reveals and exemplifies non-dual truth, and who removes the incapacitating effects of relative existence. Incapacitating effects, those things that stymie us, that stultify us, that stop us in our tracks. Swamiji sings, how did I get over that? I make a complete offering of myself to my Guru. Sri Ramakrishna in this case was his Guru, you see. And also says he's an infinite ocean of Shakti whose love fills the being and destroys all doubts and who is the ultimate healer of the chronic disease of worldliness. The ultimate healer is that. See, that great soul born. And that great soul is the son of the mother. We saw in Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa that his ideal was Mother Kali, the Divine Mother of the universe. So, if he made a complete offering of himself to Divine Mother Kali, and then Swamiji came along and made a complete offering of himself to Sri Ramakrishna, then what shouldn't we come along and make a complete offering of ourselves to Swami Vivekananda, see, who came here to the West to save us from these various things. And that's why we worshipped him last night on the 4th of July, when he passed into Mahasamadhi. And although we didn't do a puja because we don't really worship death, we worship the birth of these great souls. Nevertheless, we did an observance, and we did some readings, and we sang a few songs in honor and remembrance of Swami Vivekananda. And therefore, we worship him. See, and he feels that worship through the elements, through the 5 senses, through the prana, through the mind, through these nadis that we just opened up by singing the song. See, we sang some 12 or 13 verses of the Vivekananda Pranjali, which is actually on YouTube now. Of course, you can see that, our rendition of it. So don't you think sitting and singing those verses to Swamiji doesn't open up nadis into your devotional heart, you see, your higher mind, with all the wisdom that are in them? Certainly it does, but are you going to keep them open the next day? See? This weekend you are, because you came here.
Yeah.
Both Saturday and Sunday. Usually we're here only together on Sunday to taste the Dharma, taste the nectar of the Dharma. But this weekend we had a 4th of July, inner fireworks kind of thing, so we worshiped. So this is a little bit about what it's like, you see, self-surrender. Very difficult for many people to manage that jump, you see, because they have to surrender their personal ego, the ahamkara, you see. And it's very difficult to do. But Sri Ramakrishna says the ego only becomes ripe and therefore not a problem anymore when you surrender it. As long as it's unripe, you see, it's selfish. It wants only its own good and doesn't care about others and so forth. And it doesn't have any devotion to its true nature. See, that's been removed. Those nadis have been closed. Then not so, you see. Then the ego is going to become a huge demon, see, with long nails as sharp as winnowing hooks. You can go into poems and songs about the ego and how the Divine Mother of the Universe goes on the battlefield and destroys those egos. So we reach that level of self-surrender after we have done all this, you see. In most cases, this is rather a kind of a more classic or traditional way of putting it. As we said before, people do these in different orders. Sometimes the teachers of yoga and so forth will focus you right on the prana. Say, well, all of this will even out in you. You're a good person. It'll even out in you if you have a little quirks still, little inconsistencies in you. If you just get a hold of the prana and start it moving, purify it. You have to purify it, because when the prana is pure, it's like electricity flowing into an appliance, and the whole thing is operating right. But if the electricity is jagged, you see, and it's not being toned down and controlled and sent along the right channel, then it's going to harm the appliance. So this prana quite often harms people. See, it's ragged edged. And you see people like that with huge desire for life, lots of prana flowing, and they're just burning themselves out with it. See? Prana is one of the greatest addictions there is. In fact, if you have an addiction to alcohol or drugs or sex or food or whatever it is that the addictions are out there, it's actually the prana that's providing all of those things for you. And you're getting addicted to the prana. It's called life force. Where would life be without life force, you see? So you can jump in, and so oftentimes they do. In terms of the Westerners, they either give you some teachings on the prana or they give you a mantra. And those are both things that you want to implement quickly, you see, in your life as a Western advocate of yoga and a devotee of Divine Mother or Shiva or Vishnu, Krishna, or whoever else is your ideal. You want to implement those things swiftly. And all the rest of this might even out. Your posture will come together if your life force is flowing. Your stamina will start building because these nadis have been opened. You can do this in somewhat of a reverse form. Ideally, this is from lower truth to higher truth. Asato ma sadkamoya, tamaso ma jyotirgamoya. From the cradle to the grave, from ritur ma amritam gamaya, from death, from birth to death. But these past masters that have come along, they're coming into it with Shakti power at the beginning. They're coming into it already meditating on the ideal. Probably had lifetimes with it. Like I said last week, Sri Ramakrishna looked at his 16 apostles and said, well, few of those were with Christ 1800 years ago. I had a vision and I saw those were Christ disciples back then. Those over there, those few, were with Chaitanya in 1400. So we're to think that there's these, they're called Ishvara Kotis, that they attend upon Ishvara from lifetime to lifetime, if they take lifetimes at all. So this is some of the inner dynamics that reveal to us these huge nadis. How about the main nadi, which is like a huge freeway shooting through the 7 centers to the very top, the Sahasrara, see, along which billions of souls pass to get to their destinations inwardly. See? It's sort of dreamlike to us here, but when you begin to meditate on your dreams, you realize that this is dream number 2 and that's dream number 1. Mm-hmm. As Ramana Maharshi said, oh, that's the real dream. If I can get there and awaken in there, in that dream, then this dream will become nothing but Brahman. If I even retain the body, speaking about retaining things. Quite often, Sri Ramakrishna said, if you have that highest samadhi, then your body, you abandon your body like a leaf in a blown off leaf in a gale. So you just give it up without, you see. Mm-hmm. And you're yourself again, without any limitations, the limitations that the body forces upon you by its very nature. By nature. Nature itself is a form-producing machine. Look at the insects, plants, animals. The other 3 constituents of our Bhutakasha here, see, plants, insects, and animals, they're also there. So, a little bit then to reorient us to self-surrender. Now, if you want to refer back to this chart, because we're sort of taking these 2 new charts together, and I will be showing these on my mainland visit later this month and next month in classes there. If you want to review them, I'll be introducing these to the SRV Sanghas in San Francisco and in, that is at the retreat in San Francisco, and to the Portland Sangha in Oregon. And to some of the people I teach in prisons also are very interested in this inner freedom, this eternal freedom. Naturally they would be, because their external freedom has been taken away. So it's an opportunity to live in an ashram called a prison and have a guru called a warden and do the austerities called difficulties and study the Dharma if it's brought into them. They make very good students, many of them. So if we refer back to this chart, you can see how we looked at yesterday some of the facets of self-surrender. We can easily segue from this chart, the self-surrender portion, to worship of the great master, you see, of the avatar, of your chosen ideal, or of Ishvari, the divine mother of the universe. We said maintain a shrine and altar, burn candles and incense, offer flowers there, sing to the Lord, offer puja and arti, like we were doing last night in terms of arti. That all pretty much is what helps you affect self-surrender. What's the Sanskrit word for self-surrender? Sharanagata is a good word to use. Sharanagata dinartha paritrana parayane sarva sharti hare devi narayani namostute. See, I surrender myself to Narayani, the Divine Mother, who has appeared to us in this age as Sri Sharda Devi, who's on this chart. She used to look at the moon at night. She said, the beauty of those days when I was practicing that sadhana. She'd look at the moon and say, "O Lord, may my mind be as pure as the moon." Or, even better yet, the moon has stains on it. I can see them. May my mind be even purer than the moon. So that's this image that was put together inspired me to fill in the blanks, you see, that weren't there in the image. And so if we see self-surrender precedes by this outer worship. Now what about japa of the mantra, which we were just mentioning? They either give you prana exercises, or they'll give you the mantra to quicken up, swiffen up this process of getting your nadis open, of attaining the ever-awake state. Yogic insomnia, as our founder Alexei used to call it. So what's that? To repeat from last week, You know the mantra's meaning and you repeat it with intensity. See, it's not enough just to know the mantra and repeat it. You have to know its meaning and repeat it with intensity. That's how she would put it. Because people came to her after getting the mantra, and these were Hindu men and women there in the late 1800s, early 1900s, and so forth, when she became the mother of the organization, the Sangha, Janani. They would come to her, she had given them the mantra, and they would come back and say, it's not working. And she'd say, how long have you been practicing it? 2 days, a week. She said, oh, no, my dear, you must repeat this longer, and you must try and repeat it with intensity. And Sri Ramakrishna had told her earlier, and told the devotees, if you cry jugs of tears for the world, but you don't cry one sincere tear for God realization. So that's that kind of intensity you want to try and muster. See, you want to sit by yourself at this sacred place, take the beads out, and with the mantra, concentrate on your Ishtam and weep. One of my students, a young man about 20 or so in Europe right now, lives in Europe. He wrote me the other day and said, I saw the new music video from SRV, it made me weep. See, Jaya Jaya Rama Krishna. See, that one we just put out. He said, it made me weep. And then later in his message he said, I saw your live streaming class too. See. So I wrote him back and I said, because he asked me the question in the email, he said, what's the best attitude to put on for this? See. And how do I increase, intensify my spiritual life? And I said, when you write to me next time and say that, just like you wept tears to see the music video, but that when you write to me and say, I wept when I watched your live streaming class, then I'll know the two wings of the bird are flapping. See? Then I'll know Bhakti and Jnana finally came together. That the teachings make you as wet and moist in the eyes, and as devotion, as devout in the heart, as seeing and hearing pretty music with fine sentiments and nice images. See? So this is what we mean by intensity. See? It's got to come together. These nadis have got to come together in a big way in you. You have to put forth effort daily to keep those open. If you have come this far and you've got the basic channels open, say, I believe. See? But the belief has to turn into faith. And you have other prerequisites satisfied, like this chart has been illustrating. Now keep them open and intensify. See? Our founder, Alexikson, used to call me, I was in my 20s and 30s, he'd call me and say, I need clarification. I would laugh because he was the one that clarified things. But then he'd say, clarification and then intensity. Those were his two favorite English words as far as spiritual practice went. First to clarify, then to intensify. Because you don't want to intensify an impure mind. They say, be careful what you ask, right? Ask for. So find you get God's ear, and you want to talk into it, and you start asking for things, and if he gives those to you, it's going to ruin your life. That's why most people never get their prayers answered. Even good prayers. Oh no, you're not ready for that yet. You see, can I have that jar? No, not yet. Let me see it. Hey, it's empty. Now you can have it. So you don't intensify an empty jar, you see, you don't accept the outer beauty of a thing and forget about its inner nature being formless. If you're just accepting forms left and right, then that's called materialism. It's called loving matter. See, it's calling sensuality and so forth. But when you realize the thing can be left as it is, and it's probably happiest left as it is, and you'll be happier too leaving it as it is, then you've got equanimity, you've got non-duality, you've got inaction, not just action. inaction is as important, if not more so, than action. Right action would be nice, if you did engage in action at all, but inaction is a whole nother animal, see? And that's what you're going to get by seeing it's empty. Oh, I think I'll be empty. See how that feels, see? So, when we think of japa of the mantra, we must repeat it with intensity. We must have that kind of intensity in our spiritual life. Now, let's go on, because we need to hopefully finish this chart. This is the fifth and final class of the series called Food, Prana, and Sadhana, right? So we're getting, you can see how we've gotten into the sadhana part of it. Sadhana has to do with these kinds of things. You don't just hear about it and say, oh, that's nice, you see, or I like the teachings, but you must practice them. A practitioner is a very wonderful name to pin on yourself. Not just, I have some knowledge, but I practice. See? So in this case, you can see some of the practices we're getting into is worship, contemplating scriptures, self-surrender, and even begin to perform your work as worship. So that's quite important in order to discover the secrets, the higher secrets of spiritual life. That food turns into prana, and prana has a connection with psychic prana, and psychic prana has a connection with Shakti. Now you're aware of consciousness as it moves through the nadis. Back here, it was only moving outward into the body, and that was resulting in fatigue and death. See? Body wears out. That's all you had. See? So now you're seeing the interconnection to prana, and breath is the first sign of that. Studying your breath, and then pretty soon the psychic prana means my thoughts move, and they can move inward too. What do you think an intellectual is? It's not something who just, or an inventor, has got some sort of psychic prana going on there. May not be self-surrender yet. He might be surrendering, connecting the prana to his ego for purposes of making money or being famous. But still, there's a kind of form of subtle prana moving inward in channels that turns him into a great visualizer, you see. Today's imagination should become tomorrow's visualization, and tomorrow's visualization should become next week's realization, is how my Swami used to put it, my guru. From imagination, turn that into visualization, and visualization, turn that into realization. Or he often said, don't just idealize the real, realize the ideal. Mm-hmm. He had a sort of Swami Vivekananda turn of mind, you see, and could play with English words that way. Don't just idealize the real, like, oh, you're so beautiful, God, we're very impressed down here, I can tell you. But turn it into, I and my Father are one, see. I'm going to realize the ideal, not just idealize the real. So that kind of realization is happening on an intense level as you work towards the realization of Shakti power in everything. You became aware that there was prana in everything, but now you see it has a much subtler essence going on. She flows too. She's called Kundalini Yoga when she flows. But her flow is much, much different than anything else that moves or appears to move. So that would bring you to this ideal of meditation on the Ishtam, you see. And here we get into the new part of this chart to finish it off. Envision him, her, fully. Now remember, you've ended up with intensity, so take the intensity from the japa of the mantra and turn it on meditation. Japa and meditation go together so nicely, in fact. If you join the Ramakrishna order, some 5 million beings strong now or more, then that's what they're giving you basically. Here's the mantra, and inside the mantra is the name of the Ishtam, Sri Ramakrishna or Sri Sharda. Now you must repeat their name and meditate on their form. So here's a great step in between these extreme polarity, you see. One, world, action, death. The other, transcendent reality and transcending the illusion of death. In between, there's this friend in high places. See, there's you get to the Father through the Son, or to the Mother through the daughter, in this case, in Shakti power. See, so you want this intensity to continue on and fully envision him or her. This is God with form you're talking about, not just any old form outside. This is where your visualization is going to kick in, you see. And that's going to help you realize the ideal. Further on, you want to move beyond form. A very beautiful teaching. You know, that strange saying, if you see the Buddha on the road, kill him. You see, you know how they meant that now, if you take teachings like this. You don't want to get attached to any form along the way whatsoever. In fact, these great forms themselves are asking you to move through them and beyond them, to have the experience of non-duality that they had, so you too can be one with the Father. Be perfect as thy Father in heaven is perfect, right? So that's a very important, probably ultimate, if not penultimate, state of realizations, to have your first taste of formlessness. You don't want to just taste sugar, you do want to be sugar. Because those who have only tasted sugar don't know the bliss of being sugar yet. That's why they say, I just want to taste sugar. So in that way they want to realize the essence of consciousness, which is like the sweetness shooting through sugarcane juice. Shooting through and through. It's permeating it. Which is a nice word in English. Permeation. Totally inundated. Like a flood. Wets everything. Saturates everything. So this is something about meditation on the Ishtam, which is right here as you turn the corner. Psychic prana has now turned your work into worship, has turned your labor into love, is how Swamiji put it. And he said, oh, how peaceful the mind, how effective the soul, if they could only do their work as worship, if they could only do their labors in love. That's the kind of soul he wanted to see out and about in this world. So meditate on Ishvara. One way of putting that is Kali Kali Borshana Kali Kali Borshana Par Par Gyan Namamrita Par 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 Gyan Namamrita Jari hate pan take bashana Kali Kali Borshana Kali Kali Borshana. So, oh, blissful self caught in mundane diversions and vain pursuits, utter the sweet yet powerful name of Kali, the Divine Mother of this infinite universe. Grasp the non-dual knowledge of her wisdom feet with the strength of your subtle insight. And then meditate deeply on her all-encompassing, all-pervasive presence. Basically what the first verse of this beautiful Kali Bhajan says. It's Kali Kirtan. So that should be enough to help you muster some intensity, to have some real feeling inside. People are always touchy-feely outside, see, with everything in their life, with friends, with animals and pets and this and that, touchy-feely outside. But what about the real, true internal feeling and the kind of intensity that abides there between the human soul and the divine soul, between the Jivatman and the Paramatman? That's what you see in Sri Ramakrishna, what launched him into samadhi all the time, without almost the slightest provocation. Any little thing could set him into samadhi. Take him to the wax museum, samadhi. Take him to the zoo, he sees a lion, samadhi. See someone sweeping a broom, samadhi. See? Slightest provocation. Because Durga rides the lion, and because the wax museum reminds him of how all of this is made of wax, and there's a light inside of it. And the man sweeping reminds him of where the straw was grown in the province of Navadvip, where Chaitanya lived in 1400. Those are the connections in his nadis that are going on that make him go into samadhi. Open to the slightest suggestion of spiritual life. We have to understand this, you see, and then we're going to have to develop that capacity to open ourselves. I surrender my life, all my experiences and my entire soul at the fearless feet of my Guru, we just sang. If Swami Vivekananda felt about that, and he's a Nityasiddha, a perfect soul, how much more should we begin to strive for that kind of feeling? Say, oh, he's a perfect soul, he doesn't need a guru, he doesn't need this and that. What nonsense are you uttering? See? When you're realizing the ideal, you get everything that comes with that. Emptiness is a stage, now you're getting fullness. See? Next time you look in the jar, oh my God, it's full of jewels, you see. They weren't there before. So the difference between emptiness and fullness is substantial. And in key there, grasp the non-dual wisdom of her feet, right? So the Dharma, you see, when you hear these teachings, there's the capacity, there's the retainment. See? That becomes your life's work. And therefore you turn the corner. And Shakti becomes your moving force. You were animated by food when you were a fool. See? You're animated by prana when you were a hatha yogi. You're animated by psychic prana when you became an intellectual, or you understood with intelligence. Now you're animated by Shakti power herself. And you're free. See? And you're impervious to any of the problems that happen at all other levels. You're not having to purify, control, and raise your prana anymore. Frequenting holy company would be like whitewashing a wall inlaid with mother of pearl. See? Not necessary, right? The paint just rolls off the mother of pearl part. That's how Sri Ramakrishna has said. First you need holy company, after that, I'm fine now. I think I'll wander away into bliss. And if I see any of my friends along the way, I'll weep and dance with them. But I'm free on my own. I'm free. And freedom tastes of reality. You got that one. Because we're all kind of hippie guys from the 60s, you see, the three of us.
Rock and roll.
There were some profound lyrics came through. And so, we turn the corner then from work as worship to meditation on Ishvara. Now let's look at, since we just looked at meditation on the Ishtam, let's go further and see the fourth element of this chart that Holy Mother talked about. She wants, once you have that kind of attainment under your belt, she wants your compassion for others. She used to say that. She said, oh, now that you've received the mantra of Ramakrishna and you're free and you're on your way to the goal, won't you stop and help others a little on the way? See? That was her thinking, see. Otherwise the ego is still a little selfish there, isn't it? Well, I think I'll just take this great freedom and devil take the hindmost. Mm-hmm. But Swami Vivekananda wasn't into that kind of thing. He said, let's put off our moksha, our liberation for a while, so that we can serve others, work as worship. We can have our liberation anytime we want now, because we're in Ramakrishna's hands. See, we're Mother Kali's children, so why don't we just put that off for a lifetime or two, and bhakti and mukti and all that, and let's get down here and do the real karma yoga. Let's really serve and help others. So our hats are off and our hearts are out to everyone who does. See, who does that with constancy and sincerity. See. So important then to have this idea of wisdom as compassion. First bubble there, destroy mental distractions. So first there you see under wisdom as compassion, destroy mental distractions. That is the most compassionate thing you can do for yourself. You want to put brooding to death first. Your mind, which is focused and natural, is perfectly happy when it is so. It's sattvic. So where did this rajas come from, this restlessness? Where did this slothfulness come from? Where do these weights come from? Why can't I keep my mind at one even keel, you see? And my thoughts buoyant, Sri Ramakrishna used to say. Rainwater seeks the lowest place to settle, he said. You know what kind of thought that is? But hot air balloon rises all the time. You know what kind of thought that is. So speaking about the hot air balloon of the mind, he wants you to gain this first facet of Jnanodaya Yoga, it's called. It's one of the yogas that Holy Mother brought back in this time, Jnanodaya Yoga. Jnana is wisdom, Daya is compassion. So the yoga of wisdom as compassion. First, use it on yourself. See? Put your own mask on before helping others. You've heard it before, but this is very practical, not only when you're at 40,000 feet elevation in physical ether, but it's very, very practical when you're at 100,000 feet spiritual ether. You want to put on that mask first. That is, free your mind of distractions. There's no reason for them to be there. Kick them out of your mind. And stay one-pointed all the time. Be at peace, if you want to put it that way. Then the peace that passes all understanding will come to you, of its own accord. Sri Ramakrishna used to say again, the kid's causing a riot in the house, and he won't settle down, shut him outside the door in the backyard. Don't worry, ladies, it's fenced. And he can't get out. So shut him outside, you see, and then he'll go on being a terror, a menace. Then darkness starts to fall. He changes. See, he's not the king of the block anymore. Darkness is. Devils are. Evils are. Fear is. See, he comes knocking on the door. You don't let him in, you see, until he settles. Will you be good? Will you settle down? He's not talking about mothers and children. He's talking about the mind and you. How you kick it out, until it will behave you. You want control of your mind first and foremost. That's why, actually, if the prana is erratic, then the mind's going to be erratic. See? If the mind is already controlled, like a seer, his prana is already controlled. So you're looking outside in or you're looking inside out, and you're seeing with your viveka, with your discrimination, the difference between a balanced, realized soul and a person who has not even ascended past the first 2 or 3 levels or limbs of yoga. See? So something about destroying mental distractions, which I'm emphasizing very heavily here for us in this day and time. Just do it. Don't allow it anymore to ruin your life or to rule your life. It's not that hard to do. And it's one of those things where if you manage it, all of the rest of this can come in control. See? And if you don't manage it, then karma, you see, to pay. The devil to pay, as they say. Now the next bubble there, purify mind with knowledge. We just sang about him. Utter the sweet yet powerful name of Kali and grasp the non-dual knowledge of her wisdom feet, with the strength of your subtle insight. So you have subtle insight now. Energy that's opening is beginning to open your third eye and other chakras on the way. See these spiritual vortexes. So you're beginning to have abilities. How nice. spiritual abilities, I wish we had those, right? Because then everything else would be as if nothing. So that's where it all gets good. You see, that's where the spiritual path is maturing. You are maturing. Your discrimination, viveka, your detachment, vairagya, your samo and dhammo, inner peace and self-control, your uparati, ability to forbear ills and problems, your titiksha, titiksha, your ability to forbear problems, and uparati, your contentment, and samadhana, the ability to meditate on Brahman and nothing else. See, I mean, it's not going to happen if you haven't mastered these distractions and kicked them out of your mind and purified your mind, the nadis in your mind, with knowledge. Let nothing but wisdom, mother wisdom, flow along them, right? If you see anything else there, it's the mind police, right? It's the buddhi police, see? You kick them out. And until you're able to hold consciousness at that level. The last one there is serve God in mankind. So here are three facets of wisdom as compassion, the Jnanodaya Yoga of Holy Mother. It's one of the two yogas that she resurrected for modern times, very apropos and timely for us. The other one is called Mano Buddhi, the yoga of putting the mind together with intelligence. Those two yogas are facets that she taught and yogas that she resurrected for us. I remember hearing about them with some of my earliest Vedanta teachers who were also devotees of Sri Ramakrishna and Holy Mother. And I had never heard of them before. I thought Jnana, Bhakti, Karma, Raja, right? 4 yogas that Vivekananda brought to us. But then, Jnanodaya Yoga, Mano Buddhi Yoga. See, very beautiful the way she would synthesize and bring these to us. We have a whole chart on it that I can show you, and probably will on the mainland in this coming month. Now, there's a chart for you that is right there at the sadhana level, right? I mean, before you control the prana, you frequent holy company, you select a guru, you get a mantra, now I have to practice, right? So this is where psychic prana kicks in, and these are some of the practices you do, which we looked at here. Some of them basic, some of them running deeper channels into you, towards your true self. And they're all a matter of concrescence. They're all adding on to you constantly. So you feel better and better about everything. See, let's feel better about ourselves. So let's forget about the little self and realize our true self, because that's going to make everything better. In fact, it's going to make it best. Swami Vivekananda used to say, from good to better to best. Why shouldn't we have the highest in spiritual life? Isn't that what we're seeking? If you're not, what are you doing in spiritual life? You see, you want to stop uttering the mantra without intensity or knowing what it means? That's not going to get you very far, says Vedavyas, Vedanta. So the mantra is as if worthless unless you know its meaning and utter it with intensity. And if you have infused it with prana, see, prana and mantra are so much connected that way. Because you can't have intensity with your mantra if the prana isn't flowing that direction, you see. Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya. You fall asleep during mantra, what's wrong with you? See? So, wake up. Wake up the note that had its birth far off, where worldly taint could never reach. In mountain caves and glades of forest deep, whose calm no sigh for lust or wealth or gain could ever dare to break, where flows the stream of knowledge, truth, and the bliss that follows both. Sing high that note, Sannyasin bold. Say, Om Tat Sat. Om. Yes. First verse of Swami Vivekananda's Song of the Sannyasin, which all of you know by heart, all the verses, right? Or are working on them. So that's that note of the mantra. Infuse it with prana, infuse it with devotion. Cry tears for God. Forget what other people say. See? Let tears flow copiously from your eyes. What use these fingers if I don't use them to do the mantra? These fingers that grasp selfishly after things, what use are they if I don't use them to do the mantra? That's the beginning line of one song. And it goes on, taking every other part of the body and saying how futile it is to have a human body if you haven't consecrated it to divine reality from which it came. See? Your subtle body, your causal body, all the way up to your true self. Not the anatman, the ego, but the atman, pure conscious awareness, timeless, deathless, spaceless, causeless, and effectless, eternal, infinite, ever free and never bound. That's what you're after. Any questions? All right, time for the break. But before we get to the break, then I think we should examine these quotes, which we haven't taken them all. We took this top one, and we took this one, pure mind is God. And then we also said this one, but this is rather ironically humorous. We should probably take it again. Those who have come to the Master and I have not assembled here for fun. They know how fortunate they are in getting a human birth. So if you get a human birth, you don't want to backslide. Possible you could take on other wombs, birth in other wombs. There are many wombs to take births in, Sri Krishna says in the Gita. He doesn't actually come out and say you could be an animal. You can revert back to an animal form, but isn't that rather inferred? He rather keeps it on the level of there are births in tamas, there are births in rajas, and there are births in sattva. So why bring humans and animals even into it? There are sattvic animals out there, and there are very tamasic humans. Mm-hmm. Isn't it? What's the body? It's the consciousness, right? And the consciousness is associated with the mind, so you might not even need to go in that direction. You can just say, I better take birth, make sure that this all goes right for me if I do take another lifetime, and seek sattva and seek sattvic birth, sattvic wombs. We call it a womb with a view. Speaking of humorous, you see, a womb with a view. That's how Elmer Fudd would put it. You see, and he's a great Vedantist. You see, we know that from the past. Popeye was also a great Vedantist. I am what I am, and that's all that I am. See, that was like one of the early non-dual mantras. So it's there, even in cartoons. But you don't even want to be there in the animal form for that, you see. The human form is where this marvelous Shakti power effloresces and takes you inward, you see. Ever deeper inward until inner and outer become a thing of the past for you, and there's just nothing but Brahman everywhere. The hailstone has fallen into the ocean and given up its final form, and now it is nothing but the ocean itself. The wave rose out of the ocean and said, I'm the ocean, and the other waves laughed at it. And it went down into a depression, you see, hollow. Didn't like being laughed at. Then the next time it came up, it said, I am water. See, it had meditated on the lotus wisdom feet of Mother. It came up next time, it didn't call itself the ocean, it called itself water. And all the other waves thought, that's a very profound wave there. He's right, we're all water. We may not be the ocean. We certainly shouldn't think of ourselves as just a wave that is born and dies hundreds of times. We should think of ourselves as water, the very essence of the thing. That's Atman compared to Brahman and Maya. You are that Atman, and as far as the individualized jiva, soul, is concerned, that's where to identify. Besides, you'll get in trouble calling yourself God in this world. Be crucified or something else, you see. So, we've not come here and assembled around Sri Ramakrishna and Holy Mother to have fun, you see. We've come here to realize the true self. Beautiful, she said that. Here, another quote to finish off, as we finish off this beautiful chart. Whatsoever you want to achieve, do it now. This is the right time. Through sadhana, the ties of the past karma are cut asunder. See? So she means basically, you have the energy now to do sadhana, then do it now, because it's not going to happen when you're 70 or 80, most likely. Your prana is going to wane, no matter how pure it is. Everyone must leave the body. And you do that through the prana. The prana helps the soul exit the body. It helps it go into dream state tonight and into deep sleep state. That psychic prana kicks in after the prana, you see. So it's the same at the time of leaving the body. The prana should be under your control enough so that you can get out of this body without any problem and move towards higher consciousness. If not fully realized already, then pick yourself a very high birth. If you're coming back here, pick yourself a sattvic womb with a view, whatever the case, you see. Make sure that you have prana under your control and you understand that dynamic. Because as you sit there, meditating, silent, in peace and contentment, billions of souls are flowing past you in the river called Samsara Pragbara. Millions of souls are flowing past you to their next birth in ignorance, clueless. But there you are, poised in that flow, unmoving, you see. I am Atma Brahma, where rolled the stream of knowledge, truth, and the bliss that follows both, we just said. That's Kaivalya Pragbara. That's the dam of souls that know themselves. They stand stationary in the midst of all their flows and watch billions of souls flow outward towards other wombs. And they try and convince others, don't go that way. Come here, sport in consciousness with me. Haven't you learned anything in those several million lifetimes you took in suffering? When are you going to wake up? There's a song in India, mind, wake up, you must. The first line of the song. So this is the right time, do it now, she says. Now let's look at these 4 quotes in the bottom. You must approach holy beings with the proper attitude. Next, dive deep with the noble ideas you receive from them. Then turn to help and serve others. That pretty much explains everything that Holy Mother wants you to do in a nutshell. Approach holy beings, isn't that holy company, right, on this chart? Then make sure it's with the proper attitude. So your prana is going to have to be in your control, so you're not erratic in your thoughts. Then dive deep with the noble ideas you get from them. From where? From the scriptures and the seers. See? Dive deep, O mind, into the ocean of God's beauty. If you descend to the uttermost depths, there you will find the gem of love. It's a beautiful poem by Kabir. The next line is, go seek, O mind, go seek Vrindavan in your heart, where with his loving devotees Sri Krishna sports eternally. And the final line is, light up, O mind, light up wisdom's shining lamp, and let it burn unceasingly within your heart. Who is it that guides the body of your boat, the boat of your body across this solid earth? It is your Guru, says Kabir. Meditate on his holy feet. Beautiful, huh? A man could sit and write 3 verses like that and sing it. See? Right out of his own inner wisdom. See? Doesn't need any influence from anyone else to do that. Free, now wants to express it and leave it behind for posterity for hundreds of years. So, receive those noble ideas from stotrams, from bhajans, from wisdom chants, from slokas, from sutras, from surahs of the Quran, other wisdom traditions too. and then dive deep with them. And then, after you realize the import, turn and serve others. This is Holy Mother's yoga. She says further, perform your sadhana by meditating upon the Lord. On that day on which you have the right mood, you will have meditation spontaneously. We were talking about that just today at the little mountain ashram near here, about how meditation is such a difficult and subtle yoga to attain to any degree, or to master, or to speak of that. So it's basically very difficult to keep up a meditation practice daily and then for 30, 40 years, see? The way I've done, see? Or 50 years the way our teacher did, or 70, 80 years the way Swami Sheshananda, my guru, did, kept it up the whole time. So that's perseverance, one of her favorite words, see. First you're going to have to just do it every morning, and maybe every night too. Hour here, hour there. And pretty soon you're going to want to expand to 2 or 3 hours. And then after that you're going to go on your 8-hour daily retreat meditation, you see, and expand yourself deeper and deeper in that art. So the point here being, perform your sadhana by meditating on the Lord. On that day on which you have the right mood, your meditation will come spontaneously. So it's sort of, at that point, it's just like, I think I'll sit, you see. I think I'll sit. That's it. It's not like my guru told me to do an hour a day, yada, yada, yada. I'm just going to sit and let this happen. You don't put any barriers. There are enough gross barriers in the way to meditation. You don't put any subtle ones there. The Avadut did that when he was walking in the wilderness. See, he just all of a sudden came upon him, sat right there, and meditated. It's time. This is the right time, right? She says. Whatever you want to achieve, do it now. So when it comes upon you, do it. If you wake up and you can't sleep at night, then go into your shrine and sit for an hour. Maybe she's trying to tell you something. See? Trying to open a nadi for you. See? How frustrating it is, to watch the soul stymie its own progress. See? Maybe when it's just ready to break through a granti, a knot in one of these channels, and it backs off, you see. And there she is saying, get up, meditate, you can do it right now, this is the time. Sending that message from the telegraph from one village to the other, but the monkeys have, broken the wire. Send out the crews. See? Make that connection so we can hear her messages again. Well, you see that each one of these chants is really associated with each 4 of these. Third one is, as the timepiece on the wall goes on ticking, so too you must continue to repeat God's name, thus you will attain to everything. That's mantra. So just like the clock goes on ticking on the wall, you see, unless it bothers you so much you stop it. You go on ticking off that mantra in the clock of your mind. See? And hopefully do it with meaning and intensity, thank you. Finally, he says, the master used to fall into samadhi upon seeing Mother Kali's image adorned by the 7-stranded garlands that I fashioned from full-blown jasmine and rangam flowers. I saw that in her, one of the Holy Mother books, and I thought, in a sense, it's not really a Dharma teaching or something. It was just so beautiful, I had to include it. See? This is an instance where Sri Ramakrishna walked into the Kali temple, and Holy Mother had found these flowers at their bud stage, and she put them in a bowl full of water, and they began to bloom right then. She strung them right away and put them around the image of Goddess Kali. I don't know if any of you watching have that kind of sensibility, but if you have had experiences in temples and in pujas and smelt that divine fragrance and seen that divine scene, then that's going to put you in a very deep mood right away. In fact, you can use that for tomorrow morning's meditation. Holy Mother, fashioning garlands, putting it around Kali's neck, Master coming in, gone, you see. As soon as he sees her. You want to know how to cry tears for God? Well, there it is. See, it's the divine Leela you have to look back on and study. Well, what put Ramakrishna into samadhi? Basically, it was when Holy Mother fashioned these garlands of 7 strands with full-blown jasmine and rangam flowers and placed them around the neck of Mother Kali, unbeknownst to him. And he goes into the Kali temple because he's the Brahmin priest there and sees that and didn't stop and just say, "Oh, how pretty." See? He went into samadhi. So purification, or sadhana for purification. This is how she would outline a regimen of spiritual discipline for you. See? You can see that it's replete with everything deep and powerful, and everything that is superficial and what most people are doing today in the name of a sadhana is absent from it. And so this is where the Vedanta starts. This is where the true Tantra is. This is where yoga gets proven. See the proving ground for yoga right there at this kind of higher purification. Now, in the few minutes remaining, I declare that there are none until after the break, because I don't want to start on the next swing of this chart until there's enough time to do it without interruption. So here, thank you, live stream. Om Bhadram Karnibhihi Srinayama Devaha Bhadram Pasyema Akshabir Yajatraha Stirai Rangayishtushtuvam Sastanuvir Vyashema Devahitam Yayuhu Swasti Na Indra Vrida Shravah Swasti Na Pusha Vishwadevaha Swasti Na Starksho Arishtanemihi Swasti No Brihaspatir Dadatu Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May we hear with these ears what is good and noble. May we see with these eyes what is uplifting and beneficial. And may we, while worshipping the Lord and Mother with healthy minds and bodies, live a life which is beneficial to ourselves and to all other beings. Om, peace, peace, peace. May peace be unto us, and may peace be unto all. Om Hari Om.
Taraka Sharata Narendra Shashi Ratu Hari Babaram Rakala Sneha Shuddha Tava Panakara Sabaho Gai Nihala Maro Nijapada Padme Men Nita Kanda Vishwas Katin Banda Baba Umati Mira Nite Tapa Trayatras. Jagannata Shri Sharada Devi